Hello, everybody. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Booknerds podcast. I'm your host for today, Nidhi, and we have an amazing guest with us, Richa Modak. Welcome, Richa. Welcome to the episode.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, and thank you for having me on.
Okay, everybody. So this is a very great conversation we're going to have today. Her book, Fat, Fat, Flat, or Fit, is an amazing introduction to fitness, and this is one of the best non-fictions I've read so far. So I'm very excited to talk about it. So, Richa, I would love to know more about you and this book that you've written, in respect to how did you come up with this idea and how this whole story began.
Absolutely. So, as you know, Nidhi, I am a registered dietitian. I practice clinically both in primary care family medicine and in private practice. And I have been doing this for years now. So, I mean, it's been a long, long, long time for me to be in this field. My specialty is chronic disease reversal, especially type 2 diabetes. We know there's, globally speaking, there is such a huge surge in type 2 diabetes. And I work with that and I work with patients. I practically bring them back to the other side. So that is mainly my job, and I do this based on medical nutrition therapy and then lifestyle changes. So this book was never meant to be a book to begin with. So what happened is that initially I would have my patients come in, and then whatever we discussed in our sessions, I wanted them to go over it, to think about it outside of the session. And so I started creating educational materials because I thought, okay, you know what? If I give you this in writing, maybe you can take your time with it. And then when we are in session, we can just focus on the medical part of it. So that's where the content started developing at that point. And then I had enough content, and then I had all these patients say that, hey, so do you have a book or something that we can read? And I'm like, I have material that I can give you. And I thought, well, why not? Let's just go ahead, compile it, maybe have the content flow a little bit. And then I structured it, and there it was, Fat, Flat, or Fit.
So, as you yourself mentioned just now, that your professional experience is completely apart from, being a writer or just anything to do with the writing industry. So, how was this experience coming to this side?
Interestingly, I like that you asked me this question because I remember when I was a child, very young in school, I used to write a lot of poetry. And then when I grew up, I forgot about it. I think the last time I wrote a poem was when I felt really bad, and when I had my dog passed away, and that's when I wrote my last poem, and that was in 2014, and I never really wrote after that. And then suddenly this book thing happened, and then I was like, okay, maybe let me just write, let's see what happens. And the words, they were flowing out of my pen. I didn't really have to think about it, and I just literally, the manuscript was ready. Usually people take a long time to finish their manuscripts. Mine was ready within 3 months. So I was quite surprised at
Wow.
myself.
So, but again, as we talk about this book is very information packed, There is a lot of information with the sleep cycles and everything that you need to know about stress levels and, what makes your lifestyle a good lifestyle, basically. So, as you said, you're, already certified, you've been creating educational material, but to put up in a book because you made it conversational as well. How was that? Was that a conscious choice to make it more conversational?
Absolutely. So, what happened with this book was that, like I said, I'm more into the research side of things. And so, when I first tried to put it all down, I wanted to make sure that I was giving people facts and not just opinions or, something that I loosely believe. I wanted to give them scientific facts instead of having to Google everything and then say that, oh, I don't know if this is right or wrong. So, when I wrote the first draft, actually, when I wrote the first couple drafts, they looked like an actual literature review, where this so and so et al said so and so things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have a conversation with my reader. I'm trying to make them understand. I'm trying to structure this so that they understand every aspect of lifestyle change and they can implement that. So, yeah, there was a little bit of struggle with trying to find the tone that I wanted to use with the book, but I think it took me a few efforts, maybe a few attempts here and there, and then finally I was like, okay, I think I can resonate with this one. So I definitely would acknowledge that, a lot of my friends and family helped me with that.
You have certainly achieved it. While I was reading it, I felt like I was talking to a doctor or somebody who just like, knew what they were talking about. And specifically, I like the part where you start the book by asking yourself questions. You made sure that the readers ask them questions if they're interested in looking fit or actually being fit. So let's talk about the difference, because the tagline of your book is Think Fitness and Not Fatness. So
Mhm.
why is that? Could you please elaborate more on that?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest populations that I come to see would be, okay, you're a dietitian. I need a guidance. I need a diet plan because I want to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, do you really need to lose weight? Why do you need to lose weight? So, weight is such a different, it's everything inside your body, right? It's I'm measuring your fat weight, your muscle mass, your organs, your water, everything I'm measuring inside your body. So how do I know that your weight that you have is the wrong kind of
Yeah.
weight or the right kind of weight? And that's why I wanted people to understand that there is no definition. There's no one definition that says that, okay, a person who is very muscular or a person who is very skinny, they are really healthy. So, you need to have the flat stomach line. We don't want that. We don't want to think about fatness. We want to think about whether we are fit. Because at the end of the day, all of this, the entire fitness industry, our goal is that you live a long, healthy life, not just a long life where you're in the hospital, having chronic diseases. That's not the goal here. So it doesn't matter what your waistline looks like. It doesn't matter whether you're fat or not, whether you have a flat stomach or not. The baseline is that, yeah, you want to be fit, and that's the goal of this book.
And I think this is very confusing concept nowadays, especially with social media, exposure to celebrities to an extreme, and idealizing that particular image without forgetting that they have this as a day job. They do this for a living. So that's why they look like this. And people confuse it with different things. And you have, conquered this very specifically where you ask question, should I really need to lose weight? And there is no such thing as a strict diet. So let's come to the diet part, because I've heard so many people talk about, I'm going on a keto diet or I'm going on a certain diet to lose weight. Especially, I would say I'm also tempted. My friend is getting married soon, and but this is something, and but after reading the book I realized that this is not how it's going to work. So please, let's talk more about this.
So, one of the problems with any kind of a fad diet are that we are focusing on one macro or one kind of a nutrient group and say that, okay, let's just eliminate this from your diet entirely.
Okay.
And anytime your body goes through any change, your body is going to respond. And sometimes weight loss is like a side effect. It's like, okay, your body is trying to adjust to whatever it is that you're doing. And then you experience weight loss. You feel like, amazing, this diet works. I'm losing weight. I'm going where I want. And then for most people that it comes right back in a few months. For some people it comes back in a few years. Unfortunately, when it comes back, that's when we have a real difficulty getting it off again, because you're kind of messing up with your metabolic rate a little bit doing all these things.
Okay.
So
So basically, yeah, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask that. So basically, what you mean to say is to follow the same routine throughout your life, or is it something that you follow this diet for the rest of your life?
Exactly. So it's about following a routine that is sustainable, that you can follow, not something that is a punishment for you. That, oh, okay, let's say Nidhi is going on a keto diet. So Nidhi is not allowed to eat any kind of carbs. So even if she's going and celebrating with her friends, and if someone has a birthday, or Nidhi feels like eating, I don't know, like parathas, and she's not allowed to do that. Is that fair? I don't think so. I mean, this is your life. You're meant to enjoy it, and you are meant to eat things and yet make sure that you are achieving a healthy weight. Is that possible? Yes. You don't need the keto diet for that.
Okay. And you also talk about various things that affect the lifestyle. It's not just food or exercise, there's so much more to it. So let's talk about that.
All right. So I always tell all my patients that there are four major parameters that you have to take care of simultaneously. It's not just nutrition, it's not just exercise. It is nutrition, exercise, sleep. We do not get adequate sleep these days. And then stress
Yeah.
management, because everybody is chronically stressed. And you know what? It's not just stress related to your job or stress related to something going on in your life. But like you pointed out earlier, if a person is genuinely interested in improving their health outcomes, okay, and they go on Google or they go anywhere on social media, you have all these film stars, movie stars, they're all going to be like, yeah, look at me, I have 8-pack abs, and this is the image of fitness that we are showing today. And unfortunately, the people who are doing this, either they're doing it for two reasons. One, they want to flaunt, or the other is because they feel like they are going to earn more money by selling people fads, which happens. So there is that side of the fitness industry which we have to be very, very careful of, because selling fads is a great way to make money. And then on the other side, we are health professionals, we are trying to be like, okay, don't do that, let's not do that, that's not a good thing. So let's focus on something that is sustainable, something that's truly healthy for you. But unfortunately, what happens is that people don't go by credentials. People usually go by, credential in the form of a celebrity. Like if someone had a celebrity
Yeah.
attached to them, people would want to follow that person, but they wouldn't really go for a person who is thoroughly educated in that field. So for me, that has been one of the challenges in trying to get them to, unlearn whatever they know from celebrities, and then come back to the scientific side of things and say that, okay, listen, this is not going to work out. Let's do it this way. So that is a big challenge for me. So, I think that those four parameters, if you learn how to use them, that's the best solution to achieve a healthy lifestyle.
Wow, thank you. That was quite enlightening. And so basically, you say if we follow all of that, and you've mentioned this in the book as well, so you go through a metamorphosis, I'm using the word exactly as it is because I like the connotation that you give to that particular word, how that you will change as a person who think and cares about fitness rather than how you look like, and how does that happen? Like just accepting it as it is, or it's a more longer process?
So usually it can be both ways. This can be a tricky part, accepting the things the way they are, and actually making a change that can be through a longer process. It really depends. Now, this is where the individual variation is going to come into play. Like, which patient are we talking about here? What is their health background? What is their genetic background? Like, family history, everything else. So this is how we are going to start differentiating it into whether you have to just accept it the way it is, or whether this is going to be a longer process and then you're going to achieve the results that you want. I'm answering your question.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So, and also in this, you also mentioned that we're all, chronically either anxiety. There is quite a lot of mental issues that we all have, gathered up nowadays due to stress or whatnot, and or just because of the awareness that there is, that we're able to understand it better, and it affects our lifestyle, our health in general. So the weight loss journey or whatever it is, like all of it mixed up, affects everything, right?
Exactly. It affects everything, because you know what, so many of the time, like we always focus on nutrition, but when we focus on nutrition, what are we talking about? Calories, for the most part. Are we talking about the balance in your nutrients that also can cause unnecessary fat weight gain? No, we are not. We are only talking calories. When we talk about exercise, we are talking about calories. Exercise is not a tool to burn calories. I want to make that very clear. People use it in the wrong way. Thirdly, sleep. Sleep deprivation is a major cause of weight gain. We know that, but we ignore that because, screen
Yeah.
time is important for us. And then stress. We all know that stress has different ways of manifesting itself. It could also result in hormonal kind of an imbalance, which is causing weight gain. In other cases, it could be stress eating. And, unfortunately, and being in the clinic, I always see patients that have literally driven me to tears because they have tried all their life to be a certain way, to look a certain way, especially women. I was pregnant, I had two kids, and then I just couldn't get back to my original self. And the fact that they don't want to accept themselves or their bodies that have changed, or be who they are now, that is what the biggest problem is. And I have seen adult onset eating disorders, and the kind of suffering that the patient and their family are going through, it's terrible. And it's for imagination's sake, it's not maybe such a big deal, but when you're actually with a real person in the clinic, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could stop this. And so it irks us, when people start saying things like,
Mm.
oh yeah, you need to be really thin. And then it's like, seriously, do you have any idea how much damage you're doing out there? you know
Okay. Yeah, just one line, quite a lot of changes, everything that you
yeah.
could have learned. Yeah. And as you mentioned now that, female patients and biologically male patients or other genders basically. So for all of them, this routine looks very different, right? And the
Yes.
processes that we go through. So how would you suggest that what exactly is this one thing that we all can do to feel a little bit more comfortable with ourselves?
So and this is exactly why I wrote this book, because this book is going to educate you. It is not like, there's no one thing on this planet that is one size fits all, correct? Because everybody is so different. So this book,
Yes.
if you read and if you really understand what I'm trying to get at, you are going to be able to make that change. Like, okay, so I'm focusing on my nutrition. How should I be eating? Because I do have a meal plan, how to build a meal plan in that book. Or if I have to exercise, how should I structure my exercise? What are my goals? Or if I want to get sleep, what should I do? What are different ways in which I can make sure that I have a bedtime routine? How should I manage my stress? How should I problem solve? So I have
Yes.
actually given that. And if whether you are male, female, or any other gender, it doesn't matter, as long as you're focusing on these four parameters, and as long as you're making sure that they are getting personalized or customized to your needs, you're going to be successful.
Okay, that's very, encouraging that it actually works because a lot of time you just go to the gym, people are doing the same kind of exercises. It doesn't really matter because all they tell you is that how to lose weight without you telling them that I feel like I need to lose weight. And
Exactly.
it's very discouraging in a way, but talking to you, it explains quite a lot. And you've also mentioned quite a lot about nutrients and also the vitamins, actually. So let's talk about those fats and carbs that people are so desperate to cut out of their lives and how important they are for our bodies.
Absolutely. So, this is a great question. And while I would definitely encourage reading the book for more details, I want to cover one very basic thing about carbs. Carbs are your energy macros. So, basically, whatever energy you're getting, it's coming out of your carbs. And fats are your storage energy. So, you still need that energy somewhere at some point. So, I'm not going to go into the details of exercise physiology and, when is carb used as a fuel and when is fat used as a fuel, but rest assured they are both used as a fuel when you're exercising. Protein, on the other hand, is not supposed to be an energy molecule. It's supposed to have other important functions in your body. So what carbs do is that they will spare those proteins for those functions that proteins are required for, like making hormones, making enzymes. So those are, or muscle building. Like, for example, I have heard a lot of people go like, okay, so I did this intense exercise session, so I'm going to have a protein shake. Okay, that's great, but the protein is supposed to do the job of building your muscle, not giving you energy. So what gives
Mm.
you energy? Instant energy, carbohydrates. So when you do that, you leave the protein for doing that job, that is to build your muscle. But when we mix it up, and when we forget about it, and when we start eating overeating protein, A lot of things happen. First of all, some of them are used for energy, and that is not a very efficient process in our body. Your body is not very happy about it to do that. Second of all,
Okay.
when you eat anything in excess, so whether it is protein, excess protein is, again, it is stored away as fat in
Okay.
our body.
Wow.
Exactly. So anything, any nutrient in excess is going to be stored away as fat in your body. That's what your body does. It's not like, okay, I don't need this protein, let me throw it away. No, it's going to store it. And then lastly, because when you eat a lot of protein, it does, and this, if someone has been doing this chronically for a really long time, like, relying on protein shakes, protein supplements, it does affect the kidney function. So
Okay.
that is something to consider. So, when you're younger, a lot of these things don't happen, or, it takes years for clinical symptoms to actually show up. And then it's too late to make those changes. And then those people are like, oh, I wish I could go back. I wish I'd met you 20 years ago. And I'm thinking in my head, well, if you did, do you think you would have listened to me? That's the big question.
True.
So,
I
yeah.
think timing has a lot to do with important things. And here we have a question where you've mentioned this, but how important is sleep quality in maintaining a good lifestyle?
Sleep quality is extremely important. So when I'm saying sleep, and when I say that we all need an average of 8 hours of sleep, I mean quality sleep. And when I say quality sleep, I mean we have 4 stages of the sleep cycle, and you need to go through all those stages. You need to cycle through that, through the entire sleep cycle, and that's the only way your body is going to be able to efficiently function, because your brain needs that kind of rest.
That's correct. Thank you. And we have another question. Oh, that's interesting. What do you think about intermittent fasting?
I have thought a lot about intermittent fasting. I'll be very honest with you. So we had a dietitian, all of our registered dietitians out here in the Northeast America. We had a huge presentation on a lot of data right now on intermittent fasting. And the funny thing is, intermittent fasting is actually based on countries like ours, where there is religious fasting. And religious fasting was showed back in the day, like in Ayurveda and all. It was showed that there was a lot of health improvement that was associated with it. But those fasts were not like, okay, so I'm fasting every single day. It was like, okay, it's once in a month, or it's a particular season, or this is when we do a fast. So it was supposed to be a very, very rare thing. And I think that if you still do that, that's totally fine. But if you're doing intermittent fasting, that's like, okay, so I stop eating at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I eat the next day at 12 o'clock or something like that. That's not very good for you, because now you are kind of playing with your metabolic rate a little bit. What you are telling, and
Okay.
I tell this to everybody, okay, you have two brains. So you have one brain, anatomically speaking. There are two parts. One is your the voluntary part of your brain, by which you're making this decision, I want to do intermittent fasting. And then the other side of your brain is interpreting your actions and deciding what to do. So you want to marry those two. Okay, so now if you don't, if you're telling me that, okay, I am not going to eat for several hours in a day, what is the first thing that my body is going to think or interpret that as? It's going to say that, okay, fine, then you know what, I'm going to slow down my metabolic rate. Then what will happen?
Okay.
What will happen is that, initially you'll be like, okay, I'm losing weight, yay. And then it will be like, okay, but now I'm not, it stopped, why is it not working anymore? And then I see you in my clinic, I tried it, it's not working. So don't do
Okay.
it. If you want to do it like what we typically do in India, once in a while, that's okay.
Okay. So basically, one of those, festival fasts that we have, and you do that, and not everyday situation. Or once a week, is it appropriate to have it once a week?
Once in a like month or 3 months is okay, but once in a week is too
Oh,
much.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because you've broken down the concepts of energy and how everything comes up. People, please read this book. I can't stress this enough. She has explained everything in so much detail that there is like nothing that you'll escape. We have another question. What is your advice for maintaining consistency in any regime?
My advice to you is definitely your goals. That is what matters. How do you design and structure your goals? So let's say you have anything like this is a fitness regimen, or it is a nutrition regimen. Anything that you do, there has to be a proper goal in place. And one thing I have mentioned, so the last chapter in my book, it's filled with all these tools that you need, and one of those is setting a goal. How do you set a goal? So definitely read the book, because that is going to break it down for you. I mean, these are several, like, couple of pages I'm talking about here, so it's going to break it down for you how to make a goal when you're deciding that, okay, this is my ultimate goal, like, this is what I want to achieve out of this regimen, but how do I make sure that I'm consistently following this regimen? You need to set a goal in a certain way. You need to make sure that that goal has, it needs to be fully defined, that what is your regimen, how long are you going to follow it, what is the expected goal, how often are you going to check the outcomes of whether that is working for you or not. So it's called a part goal, so I would definitely encourage reading it.
That is true. And Rachita, the person who asked the question, I really hope you read the book and you'll find all the answers along with Richa. I have already answered them. So, Richa, I am very interested to know how your life has been as an author till now. Like, what has there been changing from, entering this world and explaining these books to everybody?
I feel that after being an author, I have definitely started explaining myself a lot better than what I used to before. I felt like before I was like a typical provider. I would go crazy with all the technical jargon, if you will, and then say something that patients would be like, "Wait, what did she say?" So when they walked out of the appointment, they might be a little confused. So in terms of my professional growth, I would say it definitely helped me, because I was able to clarify what I'm trying to say. In terms of being an author, otherwise, I am seeing the challenges in this field and how super saturated this field can be. So that's definitely made me appreciate the book industry, the entire book industry. And also, I am really thankful to my publishers and then you guys, because this is what we need. This is one way of reaching out to people and saying that, hey, you know what, i'm not I'm not a fiction writer. I have written everything that is based on facts. And I do understand that sometimes, I have read a lot of health books when I was doing this market research. I read a lot of health books, and some of them were actually fiction, honestly. So when I was reading them, I was like, okay, that does not make any sense. So I tried my best to make sure that whatever I have given you in this book is based on facts and science of the whole exercise side, physiology side, nutrition side. So I have really tried to make sure that you are getting what you really need, and that you're not getting swayed either way, that okay, is this information correct or is this correct? So I think other than that, I don't have much of a change with.
Okay. And since we're talking so much about books and writing in itself, I would love to know if you have any favorite authors or favorite books that have made it into your writing. And as you said, you did a lot of market research for your own book. So,
So in terms of like non-fiction, I don't really have anyone to, I'm sorry. Yeah, in terms of non-fiction, I don't have anyone that I can recommend or I like to let, okay, this was really great. I will say though that I have been a die-hard fan of Jane Austen's work. And
wow.
I think I might have read Pride and Prejudice, I don't even know how many times. So I just love Jane Austen and I love her work. I also like PG Woodhouse. So I think I like English author, like the old English authors, because their English is so beautiful that when you read it, you just get lost in that world. So I love that. I like PG Woodhouse. I like the Jeeves series especially. So those two would be definitely my favorite authors in the whole world.
So, have you think the anything from their writing have made it into yours, or you wish to write a book similar to that?
So I think that the chapter on stress that in this book, I felt like when I was writing it I did feel like I was writing it. You would see, if you've read the book, you will see that it has a slightly different style than the rest of the book. And when I get lost in philosophy, I feel like I take over a lot of Jane Austen's style of writing somehow. I try to remove it because it's a bit archaic. We don't use that language anymore. So I try to filter it out. But when it comes the first draft, it's always like, okay, I'm sounding like I'm writing Pride and Prejudice here. So
But that's very interesting. It adds to the book and it adds character. So I really loved it. And so lastly, I would really like to know, can we look forward to any other book?
So I am working on a book, but it is mainly for on pregnancy. So I have had a lot of people who have gestational diabetes and a lot of other pregnancy related outcomes. So yeah, I'm working on that one, but I definitely want to come up with the second part of this one because I want to write more. I want to give more education, maybe make it a little more detailed for those who are interested in that kind of information. So, but that's
Definitely.
yeah, but that's not something I'm working on yet.
But we will look forward to it because you've also mentioned, everybody, I want to add here that she has also mentioned quite a lot of pictorials for everything that you can go through. There are sample charts and photo guides. So you will not be missing out on anything. This is literally packed with all the information one might need to know about fitness. So thank you, Richa, for all of this. And we really appreciate you, talking to us and explaining all of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, everybody, that was